This is Larry Jordan, the host of the Digital Production Buzz. The following interview is an excerpt from a recent program. To hear the entire program, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. Charles Dautremont is the CEO and CTO of Cinedeck. As the Chief Technology Officer, he leads a team of developers creating innovative solutions for the broadcast industry. Charles holds a Bachelor of Science in Architecture from Cornell University and started in the entertainment industry here in Los Angeles as a technical director at the visual effects and animation studio Rhythm & Hues. Hello, Charles. Welcome.
How are you doing?
We're talking to you, and I'm looking forward to this interview, so we're doing great. How about yourself?
Good. Good to be back. It's been a long time.
It is indeed. How would you describe Cinedeck?
Oh, a lot of work. We make, tools that help people get their work done. That's how I'd describe it.
Well, yeah, but that could be said of just about any software developer, and you guys don't do software as much as hardware.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you, I saw it just a couple of weeks ago at the LassiePug meeting in the lobby, and I would describe it as magic. So using that word, you can go in and say, well, why does it make it magic, Horton? Well, don't talk to me, talk to Charles.
Okay, so why is it magical?
Well, lately it's magical because we've cracked the insert editing egg into flattened files, which has been kind of a problem for everybody since the advent of file-based workflows. Once you've got a flat file, if you have to make a change, in the past you had to re-render the entire file after making the change in the NLE. That's no longer true.
Now, you define a flat file. Tell me what a flat file means to you.
The file that you would deliver to the network, for instance. So you have your timeline in your editor, like Avid or Final Cut, and when that's all cut and you've added all your effects and color and all the rest of it, the end of the game is you render it out as one layer with the audio in however it needs to be, and that's what you hand off to your delivery. Now, if you need to make a change to that, say there's an audio dropout or a misspelling in a lower third, that sort of thing, in the traditional workflow, you go back to your editor and you give that person whatever the fix is, they put it in the timeline, and they re-render the final product again.
Well, that's because so many compression algorithms compress between frames. It's not just individual frames that are compressed. They compress video in groups of frames, which means insert editing becomes difficult because of the way the compression scheme works. Do you guys get around that somehow?
We do it for certain codecs, like XDCAM, that are interop like that. But most delivery codecs actually are iframe codecs, but still to this date, really no one's done that.
Now back in the day, which is long before you were born, I was doing video editing on 1-inch and 2-inch tape decks, and we could do insert edits in tape, but the insert would need to be exactly the same duration as the clip that we were replacing. It just dropped in and had to match to the frame. Do you have the same limitation as we do insert edits on the Cinedeck?
If you mean that if you have a 40-minute tape, you need to work within that 40-minute tape's duration, or
no? Let's say that you wanted. Let's say you wanted to replace a 1-minute shot, and you needed to replace it with a 1-minute and 5-second shot. Can you still do that as an insert edit, or do we have to go back to the NLE?
You would need to go back to the NLE. In that case, it's really extremely analogous to working with tape. If you have a file that's 40 minutes long, it's like having a 40-minute tape. If you need a 42-minute file, then you would have to go get a 60-minute tape to fit it in.
So
again, it's very much like tape in that sense.
So is insert edit a product, an application, a feature within one of your hardware boxes, or a plug-in for an NLE?
Currently, it's a feature in the software that runs on our hardware.
Which means that in order to do it...
That doesn't mean that it won't become those other two things at some point in the not too distant future.
So help me understand, how does the process work? I've got a 1-hour show. I've got to replace a bad title. I misspelled a person's name. So how do I do it?
You load the complete file that you exported earlier into our insert edit player. And with your NLE, you treat it exactly like a tape machine. Set an in point and out point, and in Avid, for instance, you use the digital cut tool, press the digital cut go, and it does the insert. So it's very simple and very much like using a tape machine.
So we would transfer the file to one of the three different versions of Cinedeck that are out there, do the edit on the Cinedeck, and then transfer it back off to the final distribution. Am I hearing that correctly?
The file can live anywhere as long as you have a big enough pipe. So, for instance, most of our customers have SANs that their files live on, like an ISIS or similar. And the file, as long as the pipe is big enough, the file can be loaded directly from the SAN, inserted to, and it still lives on the SAN. So there's not really a copy overhead or that sort of thing.
Okay, then I'm confused again, because I thought you said earlier that it required Cinedeck gear to be able to do the insert edit, and now we're doing it from the SAN. Where does the Cinedeck get involved?
The Cinedeck gets involved because there's baseband video involved. The NLE is playing out video to the Cinedeck, which is then writing it into the file. It's exactly like a tape machine if you think of it that way. The tape just can live somewhere else, like on a SAN.
Is the insert edit frame accurate?
It is, of course, perfectly frame accurate, or it wouldn't be much use. And it's also better than a tape machine in some respects because, on a tape machine it's very hard to do an extremely short insert. At least the engineers I've spoken to, people don't do less than a second usually, whereas we could do a single frame of a single channel of audio.
And what codecs does this support?
Currently in use around town, most people work in ProRes. Some people work a bit in DNX. I'd say 95% of the work is done in ProRes.
Really, 95%? Jeez.
Absolutely. Deliveries, network deliveries that are not cinema deliveries are, in other words, network television, are, I would say, maybe higher than 95% ProRes.
Wow.
Yeah, and there are people who prefer DNX, but they're a small minority, mostly because of what the networks require, not the actual, preferences of the people doing the work. Now, we also support JPEG 2000 for insert edit, and for cinematic deliveries, of course, that's more common.
With we've talked about the codecs that you support, and this doesn't even require an NLE, so this could be something that could be done by long after the editor's involved with the project. You realize that, there's a mistake here, or we've got to blur something out, or whatever. So this doesn't actually require tying in with the edit suite. It just requires access to the master output of the show, correct?
Right. If you had, for instance, a scenario that comes up relatively frequently, one of our customers is their customer will arrive with a fix for a show that was done, put out to tape, and they need to make the insert from the tape to the file. So we also support that. You can drive the tape machine as the source for the fix.
Given what this does, aside from the fact that it requires Cinedeck gear to run, are there other limitations with this that we should be aware of?
There are some limitations in terms of codec, things like variable bit rate, H.264. That's very difficult to do, and not a big need for that, but that's certainly a limitation. Lossless compression, where the frame sizes are not the same, it's a similar scenario. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot of limitation. You're limited in number of audio channels by the SDI. Can only carry 16. So our file-based version of this, which allows you to just open 2 files and do an insert from one to the other, would have fewer of these limitations that are hardware-based.
It's an amazing technique to be able to do an insert edit on a file-based workflow and have it be frame accurate. I'm sitting here stunned that you can actually do this. And
you just got to see it.
It's just amazing.
Everybody says they can't believe it. They have to see it, and when they see it, it's a little bit underwhelming when you actually see it because it just works. And if you come from the tape world, it's even less underwhelming because that's how you have worked all your life.
That's right. It always did it that way.
Yeah.
But this all started back in the early 2000s when we were doing film deliveries, short films, and we were working in After Effects, and some of the stuff we were doing was 4 or 6K at the time, and it took 8 or 10 or 12 hours to export something. So if you made a mistake, or you had a fix, or the client wanted something else, that's a serious penalty.
Yeah,
and
it is.
It seemed to me at the time, I couldn't believe it. Here we are in this digital world. It's just data. Why can't we just fix it in the flat file? I don't know.
And now, for the first time, we can. Charles, where can we go on the web to learn more about this product and the rest of the Cinedeck gear?
You can go to Cinedeck.com. It's full of nice little demo stuff and all kinds of information.
And Charles Dautremont is the CEO and CTO of Cinedeck. And Charles, thanks for joining us today. This has been a fun interview. I'm glad for your time. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. To stay connected and receive updates from The Buzz, sign up for our free weekly newsletter now. Or you can learn more about us on our website. And thanks for watching The Digital Production Buzz.